Mr. Parkour?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And then next would be the Historical Preservation Committee report.
We get so wrapped up in the huge policy project, I did not do a written report, so I just want to do a brief oral report and probably submit something a little bit later on to the list in full. There's not much new to add. We're continuing on as we've been continuing on. Right now, if people aren't really that involved in LPDS, some of it might not make sense, but we finished all the main recategorization. So now I'm on to the oodles of image files and categorizing them. 20,000 image files that I'm working on. So we're on to the next stage. There's a big copy job that's getting done right now that's coming back. So, I mean, it's progressing on plan each time. And we always need volunteers, particularly because that's going to, the press is going to start looking there. So I've been trying to encourage the state affiliates to make sure their affiliate page is up to date. So the regionals perhaps do that. The last thing you want is for a reporter in your state to find it and go, these people are such jokes that you're still saying that the chair from 10 years ago is still the chair. So each of the state affiliate pages needs to be up to date. And I found in a lot of states, there's one person who just really loves doing it, Mr. Eric Holder here, who takes care of Colorado, and he's the one who's pending the convention page for the upcoming convention. I learned about all the changes because I see Eric's amendments. But the things we know the press is going to be looking at, we need to be keeping up to date. And encouraging the presidential candidates too to put a lot of information in there, because more information can be put in there than like Wikipedia will allow. We have a little bit of different rules. So, we're plugging along, getting the historical stuff in there, but let's try to make it more press ready.
Any questions? Yep.
So you have 2 vacancies on the historic forest preservation.
We do.
What are the requirements for filling them?
Okay, we ran for a bunch of applications, and we actually talked to a few people that then disappeared, as sometimes happens with volunteers. We need workers. We need people who really want to dig into the wikis and put a lot of work into it. So there's really no special requirements other than being able to learn wiki text, which isn't difficult, and willing to put in a lot of time.
Who's the appointment over here?
The committee. Right, so you look like you're interested.
I know.
Talk to me. We want to fill the other spaces.
How can we find out who currently is handling these for our particular state? Like, do you have a way to tell who's been updating the?
Are you familiar with Wikipedia at all?
Yes.
Just like Wiki, because we use the same exact software. If you go to the history tab, you can see who's been doing the edits. Now, some people will use, like Sexy Mama 10, and you won't know who that is, the screen name. But most people are using a name that you know who they are. If you're talking about Texas, I know who the Texas one is. And there's someone who updates every single day on that Texas page.
Well, it's not correct.
Yes, I've had some discussions. Yes, so I can give you more information on him. James Holston's been trying to work with him to. Yes,
I know it is. We should talk.
yes, but he is very active, that editor.
Any other questions or comments? Going once? Right. Ms. Harless?
No?
And that concludes the.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be submitting something more full on the list.
That concludes the Historical Preservation Committee. Next is the IT Committee. The chair did not submit a report, but there is some outstanding business that we submitted from the committee. Basically, Juanita Billings, a member of the committee, will express interest in renaming the committee into the, I think it was the Information Services Committee. They gave for it to be a more broad swath of different services that we provide. That's not just the hardware, software, and then more service oriented. So I'll read the motion, and then, I guess, I'm representing the committee, I'll move the motion. But can I pass it down for signing?
This came from a committee,
Just to be, Ms. Sanborn, would you be able to move the motion for me? Or actually, Dr. Lark, would you?
I don't have the language for it, but is it
It's-
here? Is it in?
Right
It's
here.
in one-
Yeah, right here, yeah.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
sure.
I'll read it.
Unnecessary.
So, yeah. Whereas the Libertarian Party faces a myriad of challenges in its quest to offer election candidates who espouses the principles of freedom and liberty, and to provide resources to support growth of membership and public interest. And whereas its statement of principles codifies the nature of its goals, nothing more nor less than a world set free in our lifetime. And whereas the imparting of exchanging of information or news is invaluable to achieving the stated goal, and whereas being a cornerstone of solid business operations, effective communication, both internally and externally, is essential to achievement of its goal. And whereas the tools and services employed to meet such goals represent a critical success factor, the undersigned moves to rename the entity currently entitled Libertarian Party Information Technology Committee and reassign it as Libertarian Party Information Services Committee, in order to support more logically designed, aligned, and managed communications architecture, including operations processes, underlying digital records and delivery technology, essentially to production of effective information services both internally and externally. Is there a second to that motion?
Actually, point of order, this person is not capable of making a motion because she's not on the committee. And the text of the thing says the underside moves to rename. So that would be a point of parliamentary.
She's on the IT committee and we voted it as a committee on the motion.
But she's not on the LNC.
Oh, yeah.
but the committee can recommend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the committee has adopted this as a recommendation,
The recommendation
it
to the
becomes an active committee by anybody.
Then I move to amend the motion so that it reads,
Or you can amend this one as a second. The original.
Well, you second it.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I move to amend the motion so that it reads, the Libertarian Party Information Technology Committee will henceforth be known as Libertarian Party Information Service Committee.
I'll second that.
Any second? I think there was a second. Yeah. Is there an objection to the amendment?
Yes.
You like all of our asses?
Well, actually, no, I don't have an objection to it. No objection.
Okay. But anybody else have an objection? From one quiet. And the amendment passes without objection. So back to the original motion. Make sure the vote on the original motion.
Well, we need to make a debate on that.
Okay, does anyone want to speak to the original motion? For or against?
Is there anyone for it?
I'll speak for it. An IT committee would be different than what this committee's focus has been. This focus of this committee is more service oriented. That's why she wanted language change, and I kind of agree with her on that. So I think it's a good fit for the change of the name. They're not in there technically flipping switches and pushing buttons and doing data logging and all that and writing code and everything. So, but they do want to focus on member services and try to help better that. So I think that change would fit the goals and focus of the committee.
I do, but I'm trying to just pull up the policy manual here a second, because there is a description in the policy manual that I wanted to take a look at. And I'm trying to find it here. Wish you got it memorized.
Paragraph 3.
Page 12.
No, I was just making that.
Oh, I believed you. I totally believed you. I'm flipping through here. Okay, see, there's the chart where I see committee.
You guys should have a poker table together.
Why can't I find these committees? I'm on a PDF file.
I think the table is one of the got something.
Yeah, there's definition, there's definition.
I know there is, and that's what I'm trying to
Okay,
find.
so what you guys look at the definition, Mr. Nicalia?
I'd like to offer an amendment to also add that any mentions of IT committee in the policy manual will be changed to information services committee. IS.
For information, if the committee's already renamed, would that already happen?
Yeah.
I
Oh, well, I think it will.
It's a conforming.
Yes, it's find the page.
It's not necessary.
Did you find it?
Or,
What page?
it is
27, 28 in your red line version.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, there's some words in here that'll need to be changed.
I'm getting there.
Yes, well, and also this one right here, information technology needs of the LP. Is it pro forma to just change the corresponding sections of the policy manual and change those?
Just to make it clear, we could say along with any necessary conforming changes.
I second that amendment.
Okay. Any objection to that amendment?
No.
Okay, so the amendment passes to add a language.
But now we're back to the, okay. The role of the IT committee is described in the policy manual, and I'm not too sure what it's doing now that's different, but it isn't an information services committee as described in the policy manual. And even though we did strike those whereases, it does give the thought process as to why they thought the committee name should be changed, and it talked about how it's delivering information services. And I don't really think that's what it does. It says operational processes. It seems to impinge upon a lot of different things that go on at headquarters. It's very, very broad. According to the policy manual, this is to be a traditional IT committee. If we want to make it a different kind of committee, I think it needs a lot more thought than making it a different kind just by changing the name. You know, all of a sudden we're going to make it an entirely different kind. If we want to make it a different kind of committee, fine, but I don't think we should do it by just switching the name. I think we really need to sit down and come up with a better description, because what's in here is an IT committee. Sure. From the policy manual, starting on page 27, it's subsection 9, Information Technology Committee. The IT committee shall work with staff and state chairs to identify the information technology needs of the LP, discuss with state and staff chairs the anticipated IT needs. I'm sorry? Staff and state chairs, excuse me. The anticipated IT needs and how to meet those needs. Survey the list of possible vendors and solutions to those needs and reduce the list to a small number. And then continuing, it's a whole list. By the LNC meeting following the convention, the committee will recommend to the LNC an implementation of the IT tools that will best satisfy those needs within the budgetary constraints of the party. Next, monitor progress in the transition and implementation to that solution as it pertains to HQ. Monitor progress in the transition and implementation to that solution as it pertains to relations with the various affiliates, and propose standards for transfer of data between HQ and the affiliates. Nothing in this policy should be construed as requiring staff to consult with this committee for routine changes or any changes that are not expected to have an effect on the way HQ deals with any affiliate. Any change to the information technology at HQ that will affect the way finances are handled or the way FEC reports are generated must be approved by the treasurer.
Yeah, first Matt, and then the others of the body, Mr. Starr.
So since we struck all the whereas clauses and the rationale from it, the motion that's in front of us is just renaming it. So I don't think the name implies necessarily all the things, you know, if there's objections with what the other whereas clauses are going to be, those are gone. So we're just talking about what we're going to name it, and the existing definition of what they do is still there. So that doesn't concern me that this will broaden their scope. Because we have an existing definition. We struck all the whereas clauses. We're not necessarily agreeing that those are the rationales. We're just talking about this.
Do we have objections on Mr. Starr? Then Mr. McDaniel.
Yeah, I don't think you can change the function of the committee with just whereas clauses. Particular policy manual defines its suggest, I mean, if it's just a name change and that's all you want, beautiful, fine. But if what you want is a change in the scope of what it does, I would suggest that you postpone this motion until maybe sometime tomorrow where the committee can come up with a proposed scope language that's in the policy manual. I don't think it's really, changing a horse into a donkey, renaming a horse to a donkey, and still having the same description of horse doesn't really.
So I think this committee has really evolved over the years, and they're not just the kind of folks that you call up whenever your computer doesn't work or your systems are down to give you help. They're really providing a lot of services to the affiliates. And I think if we were to change the name without changing any of the policy manual definitions of what the committee actually is, I don't think it's really substantial enough to, I think it's pretty much something that makes sense. Because at this point, they are providing services.
And this is going to build a little bit upon what Mr. Starr said. For right now, if it's doing more than it should, that is somewhat irrelevant because we are supposed to be following with the policy manual, this scope dictates it. What the policy manual describes is what in nearly any industry is called an IT committee. It's almost a term of art. To change that to something entirely different just for the sake of changing the name makes no sense. If we want to change their scope, I think Mr. Starr's suggestion of looking at that. But to just change the name, that's busy work. It's not really changing anything. Why do we want to change the name? And we do know the motivation for the name change. It's not part of the motion. We know that's why they want to change the name. And it's not a legitimate reason until we change the scope.
I agree, and I believe that any change at this point moved on from pitching the purpose of the direction and we're not. So we're not going to change the scope. It doesn't make sense to waste more time. We're going to change the name and
Mr. Longstreth and Mr.
I mean, from my point of view, this is essentially wasting time. There's no way changing the name without changing the substance. And so, with that, I think some of my peers, but I'd like to call for this question.
Questions to be called? Okay, so with that, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Go on, close to the question.
Okay, so I will do, if you're in favor of closing debate, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so debate, if you're not in favor of closing debate, say nay. And, okay, so debate's closed. Okay, for this, I think we're doing a roll call vote. That will wrap up the IT committee, so the next will be without access.
Okay. Are you ready? Yep. Okay, Ms. Billiard. We are voting on whether or not to change the name.
Oh, so we're going to do a roll call vote on the...
Okay, pass.
Mr. Bishop Henchman?
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein?
Aye.
Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
I will vote no. Mr. Hewitt?
Yes.
Did you say yes?
Aye.
Dr. Lahr?
Aye.
Mr. Longstreth?
No.
Ms. Mattson? Pass. Well, that's not Mr. Reset. And Mr. Michaela? Mr. Ford?
No.
Mr. Phillips?
Abstain.
Mr. Redpath?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Ms. Van Horn?
Yes.
I gotta go back to the tasks, but I would just, it's that, okay, Ms. Billiard? and Ms. Mattson. Okay, we've got 9 yeses, 3 nos, 3 abstentions with the chair. Okay. Passes.
Mr. Chairman, given that there are, I think, actually some very reasonable comments made about the question of is the scope of the committee being changed in a way that really the LNC should have impact on this. I will point out to Ms. Billings, who is the vice chair of the LPDA, that she and her colleagues may want to address this issue, and perhaps they may want to come back to us with suggestions about how our policy manual definition might be changed.
Thank you, Dr. Orr.
That concludes the IT committee report. Or now the Information Services Committee. Next will be the Ballot Access Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submitted my report. I would like to do a few comments about some things, and I ultimately want to discuss something that I did not include in my written report that I do want to bring up is the situation in New York regarding this horrible ballot access legislation. I would like to open that up in a moment and bring in the current chair on this. I have not talked with anybody in New York at this point about this, but I'll get to that. In my report, and I'm talking about presidential ballot access here, we right now have presidential ballot access in 36 states, counting DC as a state. That leaves 15 states to go. I break them down into the following states that need to do this themselves. We just don't have the resources. I mean, I suppose if push comes to shove, the LNC will come to the rescue of some of these states, but that's really out of bounds in my opinion. And those states are where it's 2,000 or fewer signatures, and those are Iowa, Minnesota, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Washington, and Wisconsin. I may do a little bit of help petitioning in Wisconsin, given that I live close, not too far from the Illinois-Wisconsin border at this point. Also Virginia. Virginia's not looked to the LNC for help for many presidential election cycles. It's only 5,000 valid signatures. I'm not sure the Virginia party can do this on their own. The Virginia party doesn't have the cash that it used to. But I am hopeful, and certainly my message to everyone in Virginia is, please get this done on your own. That brings us down to 7 states left. We're petitioning in Maryland starting on Tuesday. Well, actually, the volunteer drive has started, but the paid petitioning is going to start on Tuesday in Maryland. Haven't looked at the weather forecast. I hope it's going to be good. In Alaska, well, let me also mention. Let me go and mention the 3 states that might need some national help, where we cannot start until the ticket is selected because of no presidential substitution. That's Alabama at 5,000 net SIGs, Maine at 4,000 valid SIGs. New Hampshire is 1,500 valid signatures in each of the 2 congressional districts. I think the New Hampshire party's in better shape than what it used to be. I think Alabama and Maine, if we have petition drives there, they're going to need some LNC help. I've addressed that in my report. As I said, Maryland is starting. The paid drive is starting on Tuesday. Alaska, I am trying still to find an attorney in Alaska. I'm having a dickens of a time. I'm cautiously optimistic. I've got to follow up with a woman there again on Monday who has not gotten back with me. I'm trying to line her up to do this. If not, I think I have a lead on somebody else. Pennsylvania is 5,000 valid SIGs. That drive goes from February 19 to August 3. They've got a long time to get 5,000 net signatures. I just spoke with someone in Pennsylvania today. He thinks there's a possibility Pennsylvania can do this without LNC help, but it depends, quote unquote, on a number of things. The big enchilada is Illinois. This drive is going to be genuinely difficult. I personally need to step it up in terms of recruiting both paid petitioners and volunteer petitioners, and I intend to start that process no later than Monday. But it's going to be a tough drive. It's 25,000 valid signatures. A given petitioner, unfortunately, we just can't get any petitioner in Illinois. There is a law that says that if somebody is petitioned for another political party or independent candidate, they can't petition for Libertarian candidates. And that really, really makes things difficult. And yes, unfortunately, that has been legally challenged and it was upheld. So it's going to take lobbying of the legislature to change that. And I don't know. Yes, sir. Within an election cycle is my understanding, but definitely in this election cycle, I've already called paid petitioners, and they've already said, "Well, we're sorry, but I petitioned for some Democrats already." They're out as individuals circulating petition. So I'm going to, and if anybody has ideas, I'm going to have to beat the bushes for petitioners here, and of course, I'm hoping that the experiment that is being tried in Maryland succeeds, because then those petitioners can come to Illinois. The Illinois petition drive is for 90 days starting March 24, Tuesday, March 24, so that is coming up 7 weeks from this coming Tuesday. So I've got some tracks to make in order to pull this drive together. Making it worse even this year is the fact that there is a wealthy individual who plans on running for U.S. Senate as an independent. He's got a lot of money, is my understanding, and so he may buy up a lot of petitioners in Illinois as well. So that's why we're going to need Libertarian stalwarts to do the petitioning and who will not be lured away by bigger money from the independent candidate for U.S. Senate. The Illinois petition would put the presidential ticket and a U.S. Senate candidate on the ballot in Illinois this year. Like I said in my report, petitioning has gotten very expensive. Bloomberg, $15 a sig. I just talked with somebody who is in California right now who used to run Illinois drives and might be willing to run an Illinois drive, but he says to me, quote, "Bill, in California right now, there's $21 on the board," quote unquote. That means that if there are several initiatives, I don't know how many initiatives, but if a petitioner would get a person to sign all of the initiatives on his clipboard, it would be $21 to the petitioner. And that's the sort of prices that are being paid for some people out there these days. So in any event, like I said, I've got to roll up my sleeves and really dig in on Illinois. With New York, I'm going to bring up New York State. There was a bill that there's been a lawsuit filed by another party on this, and I've not talked with the New York chair yet about what the Libertarian Party can possibly do on this, but it is, there it is. But there was this is from Ballot Access News, the New York State Commission on Public Funding raised the number of signatures for a statewide independent or for the nominee of an unqualified party from 15,000 signatures to 45,000 signatures. Under the law that authorized the commission to rewrite election laws, the New York legislature had until December 22 to veto the work of the commission. The legislature did not act. Therefore, the petition requirement is now in effect. A state court in Niagara County is currently considering whether the legislature exceeded its authority when it authorized the commission to rewrite election laws. A decision is expected any day soon. I'm not aware that it's been handed down. There are other cases. Libertarian Party has not filed a case, but one filed by the Working Families Party, the other by the Conservative Party of New York. And it says the commission also raised the vote test for the definition of qualified party from 50,000 votes for governor to the greater of 130,000 votes, or 2% of the vote cast in each presidential and gubernatorial election. But that is not effective until November 2020. So, that's going to make it very difficult to get on the ballot in New York State in the future if this is not knocked down or changed by the legislature. Mr. Chairman, do you have any comments or any knowledge about this?
If I remember right, in 2016, we spent 40 or 60,000. It was a significant amount spent on New York, and that was to meet the 15,000 signature amount, which we turned in little over 30,000 signatures. So to make this 45,000, that means you're talking about 90,000 signatures. And then they have to get 130,000 votes. When Larry Sharp finally got a ballot access and got 90,000 votes, it really makes it impossible because their party literally takes everybody off the table.
Right, and they didn't lengthen the period of time. It's a 6-week drive. They didn't change the 6 weeks.
Nope.
So anyway, that's the sad news out of New York. Some states really have it out for us, and others. It's not so much us, but I think others. So that's my report right now. I'll be happy to address any questions, Mr. Ford.
Yes, are you still under the owner's restrictions as to who can actually petition in New York State?
That's interesting you bring that up. My well, that wasn't my lawsuit, but Redpath v. Spano was ruled moot. So I believe that law is back in effect or never got eliminated through the lawsuit because I asked our attorney after Larry Sharp got over 50,000 votes for governor, and it was just the Libertarian Party that filed lawsuit banning out-of-state petitioners. And I said, is this going to moot our case? And the original suggestion from the attorney was no. Well, a court did rule that now that the Libertarian Party had ballot access in New York, it mooted the case. And so I believe there was a reversion to the law that said that out-of-state petitioners in New York State are banned. We're banned.
We're banned, okay.
Yes, out-of-state petitioners are, I believe, under the law of New York, even though we won the case.
Right.
Before the appeal process was over, Larry Sharp got over 50,000 votes.
So now, on top of everything else, you still got to muster New York residents, or I should say New York registered voters?
No, residents.
Residents. New York residents.
Mm-hmm. That's, well, or have people go out with other, it has to be witnessed by a New York resident. It's horrible. He's gone completely dark.
I agree. So I was wondering, with your personal colleague, to see if you can reach out and make some contact there. Do you think Alaska is in danger, serious danger, of not getting access like similar to New York, or do you think that we might be able to handle this even if the chair remains on the
Well, I think we can still handle this. I mean, I think that I haven't tried to, I don't know who the other officers are up there. But I hope that we can get somebody from the Alaska, or work through Scott Kohlhaas in some way, or something. But it's disconcerting when the state chair does not respond to emails, does not respond to phone calls, and it's just tough lining up an attorney right now. Our usual attorney who would handle this is now inactive due to health issues, and there is a woman who is stepping in to take his place in not not necessarily in this case, but in his other legal matters. And I know she's very busy, but it's tough getting an answer out of her as to whether she'll handle this case or not. And there is another ballot access attorney, but not barred in Alaska, who may take it, but then we'd have to find local counsel. Pardon? Okay. Please, thank you.
Yes, with Alaska, I'll reach out also to Sam, who is an officer there.
Okay.
And the candidate, a lot of times, she's always very active. She has absence and comment. So I'll try to figure out from her how to get that ball moving along.
Okay, I think it's a great, I think it's a great lawsuit. I mean, Alaska is the only state that doesn't have I haven't read the law myself, but Richard Winger has told me that this provision of the law can kick a party off the ballot, the 3%. If you don't get 3%, you get kicked off, but getting over 3% doesn't keep you on. So it's the only law in the nation like this, according to Richard Winger. He says it's completely illogical, and he thinks it's an excellent case to win.
Have you tried reaching out to John Corbett or Daniel Houghton in Alaska?
Beg your pardon?
Have you tried reaching out to John Corbett or Daniel Houghton in Alaska?
No.
John Corbett? was at least the vice chair, and something's changed.
I-
So I asked.
I don't know anybody except Mr. Watts up there. Okay. Good, thank you.
Yes. And just back to Illinois for a second, if anything, I would just emphasize to everybody, if anything, that Mr. Redpath is understating the difficulty there this year. We've got a ton of challenges, and it's gonna be a rough one.
It will be, but we're going to try to figure something out.
All right.
Any further questions or comments on the Ballot Access Committee report? And that's all. Thank you very much.
Hey, the next item on the agenda is blockchain committee.
I'll take that one. As far as I'm aware, the chair has submitted a report, nor has there been a recent meeting. I plan to be following up with the blockchain committee chair, along with the chair of a couple other committees, about seeing when their next meeting will be. So that's all I'm aware of.
Can you take also the action to ask the members of that committee whether or not they feel that committee is still necessary? And whether or not they think that the next LNC should retain that committee or not retain that committee, and get a recommendation from them for the meeting in Austin that we can pass on to our next.
Yeah, I spoke to the president about it as well. He basically needs to do some things that like have this more people that are heavily involved in personnel involvement. So I think that's the big issue.
So it may be that we're not at the point where we can do it effectively yet.
It's not possible.
Whatever their recommendations are, I think it would be helpful for the enabling committee to know what they think. And then we can pass that recommendation on to the next LNC and they can do with it what they want. I believe is youth engagement a similar situation? Youth engagement committee, Dr. Larkin?
Well, I have the honor now, as of November, I'm on the committee. There has not been a formal meeting. I contacted Ms. Stewart, who is the chair of the committee. Very nice young lady, very talented young lady. She has some recommendations for the LNC. I suggested to her that it would be better if she actually put forward her suggestions as being coming from the committee, which for various reasons I don't think she's done. I think the main problem with Ms. Stewart is she evidently has had some health problems, and they have complicated her life evidently pretty substantially. I asked her whether she wanted to continue as a member of the Youth Engagement Committee, and frankly, she didn't say no. I don't want to continue, but it struck me that she doesn't feel that she's going to have the time, and perhaps because of her health condition. So what I would suggest is that I will try to put together a meeting of people and just see where we want to go from where we are. So I'll be happy to take that responsibility.
So a similar responsibility to Alex of the blockchain committee to have at that
Yes,
next meeting. A
Yes,
recommendation for how we move forward.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Convention voting process committee.
We discussed this a little bit earlier in the Convention Oversight Committee report. I do my remit is this, is coming up with a good consensus between the Secretary of the Bylaws Committee, the Convention Voting Process Committee, the Convention Oversight Committee, and other interested parties.
That many people.
Yeah.
How can it be?
I mean, how can we get, and I think we're going in a good direction. Ms. Mattson was kind enough to spend time with both the bylaws and the Convention Voting Process Committee a couple of weeks ago, walking through how we currently conduct elections, and I think that really got the juices flowing with a lot of people. I've put together a summary document of kind of the status quo, and then the next step is a summary document of the various solutions that are being offered, both on the lists of the Bylaws Committee and on the Convention Voting Process Committee, and in the report of the Convention Oversight Committee. I'm sure the Secretary will have her own input as well. So it's a slog, but I feel like we're getting to a point where we will have at least a solution this year.
Do we anticipate a substantive report in advance of the next LNC meeting?
I would hope so, yes. I will commit to that.
And can that report obviously include, similar to the other special committees, a recommendation to the incoming LNC as to whether that's a committee that needs to go through the next term and
Certainly, that's fair.
whether it should be
I'll pass that along. And please, if you have strong opinions or really any opinions on convention voting, please give them to me or to any member of the committee. I'd rather we resolve this, not through, well, I'm going to stand up at the convention with a motion. But you don't need to do that yet, or we're still at work, and I hope to come up with a good solution.
Ms. Carlos.
And also, I'll refer to Mr. Henchman. I'm going to be meeting with the people I've gathered so far from my teller team who are all full of ideas as well to see what they're like. But if somebody might come up with something brilliant. So, yeah, I'll definitely put something together as to what that team and our thoughts are too, to consolidate with that.
Any other questions for Mr. Bishop Henchman regarding convention voting process committee? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Bishop Henchman. Membership support committee.
Okay, so the chair has attended the previous meeting in Miami and reported you guys gave the committee authority to fill in vacancies. The vacancy that was left by former alternate Lyons hasn't been filled yet. So I'm going to follow up with the chair where we are along with in that process. We were in a pretty good routine of having bi-weekly meetings. That kind of got messed up with Christmas, and then basically we have to come back and kick that back up again, having bi-weekly meetings. Some of the members of the committee have been phenomenal in assisting the staff with making hello calls, including Riley Zorwart and Jennifer Moore from Pennsylvania. So that's, but at the moment the chair did not submit a report. I will follow up with the chair, and I'll also ask also for recommendation for the next LNC.
Thank you so much. Mallory Starwork is obviously the best Starwork. Any other questions related to the membership support committee? Seeing none. Ticking right along, new business with previous notice. Policy manual amendments. I have 30 minutes allocated for this, and how it is a joint Mattson-Carlos agenda item, and so rock, paper, scissors, coin flips. I don't really have a preference. Who speaks? Go ahead, Ms. Mattson. Make sure to speak up, although you're closer to Dr. Buck.
But now, Mr. Hagan's going to ask me to speak up. Yeah, exactly. So I think the bulk of the items can be covered in a single motion, and I did 2 weeks ago. I sent you a file of here are things that we agree on. There's a second section of this discussion where we brought up some alternate proposals. We'll see if those get agreement. All but one of those has since gotten agreement, and so those have been rolled into the first section of things we agree on. But you saw those in the list I sent 2 weeks ago, and then the version I sent last night just showed that one remaining item, and the others have been rolled up into the section of agreement. So I think we can start with a motion to make all the changes in the section
Titled Agree Policy Manual Style.
Agree. And by the way, these are things that even though Dr. Lark was not officially on the project, that it also has agreement from him because he has a keen editorial eye that I took advantage of here.
Right, it's been moved. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Carlos. Do you need to speak to it?
I don't think so. These are things we agree are not substantive. They're stylistic. They're capitalization, inserting Oxford commas, using some acronyms in a few places. So we don't believe any of these substantively change any policy. It's just cleanup work.
So I have Ms. Carlos wants to speak, and then Mr. Bishop Henchman wants to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Ms. Mattson said. The list that Ms. Mattson had sent out was key to the older policy manual, so I did send an updated list that had all the correct line numbers to the current policy manual and a markup copy of the current policy manual. Those are both in OneNote. So you can, we're not looking back at a policy manual 3 versions ago.
Mr. Bishop, Mr. Goldstein.
I have a question. So just, I'm going to say my understanding of it, and you tell me if it's correct or not. This is kind of in 6 pieces. This first piece is 200 odd changes that the 3 of you all agree on. The second piece is about fixed assets. The third piece about gender neutral language. The fourth piece about the abbreviation of ED. The fifth piece about numerals, and the sixth piece about remaining MISC. 2 through 5 maybe don't have all of you, and so it's kind of being referred to us, but this first set is, so is that an accurate statement of what we have to
dissension on these changes?
There's no dissension on these changes, but I think there's another, the third section in what I sent 2 weeks ago and again last night, might be another piece inserted in your queue.
Okay.
There's 2 miscellaneous sections. One was miscellaneous left over from Ms. Mattson, and then there was another miscellaneous that we could look at. But you're essentially correct.
Mr. Goldstein.
First of all, I want to commend the 3 people who worked on this for all their work. They really must not have lives outside.
Well, not now.
Yeah. I will not make a motion to divide this question, and I call the question on this particular aspect.
Thank you. Is there any objection to ending the debate on the question? Hearing no objection to ending the debate, is there any objection to adopting these changes? Hearing no objection, they're adopted without objection. Start with success. And more success, more like, so which item would you like to present next?
If you don't mind, Ms. Mattson, should I?
I'm going to finish out the ones and what I sent to us and these are the stuff that you can do.
Is this the one that's not disputed?
No, this is.
Everything else has disagreed.
Everything else. I thought there was a third item that you said might have fallen into the.
So there's one leftover item that Ms. Carlos didn't agree on. I'm not sure that I'm not. So this is in the list that I sent last night. It's the second section, page 32, line 30, inserting a comma. I'm not so enamored with the idea that I want to bring it up as a separate motion, but I do want to bring up the 2 motions at the bottom of the list, the substantive changes for individual votes, that section. These were
in OneNote. I have it as miscellaneous other PM changes from Mattson Lark.
Okay.
So we go. That's where other people are looking at somewhere.
Yeah, it starts with fixed assets.
Fixed assets, harassment, indemnification.
And that's it.
No, mine is, what I'm talking about is, all right, so there's one on what used to be page 24, line 34 to 35, and where it would be taking out, or the chairman of a judicial committee from.
That's in here too.
That's in here too on a different list. I put that with, that's in here too.
This item in the OneNote has basically 3 pages. And each page has a section that has a change.
Right.
I want to inquire, is this the least controversial of the motions? Are we proceeding in the order from least controversial to the most controversial?
I think they're all equal at this point.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I'm
You
trying
can
to.
scroll down on that page.
Yeah.
I hit hard return, so it's right. Miscellaneous other PM changes from Mattson. It's the 4th item down.
Can someone move that?
Well, there's separate ones in here.
Okay, so they need to be done separately.
So I don't feel so strongly about the one with fixed assets to spend time on it, so if someone else does, they can move it, but.
What is the change?
It's adding.
We need someone to make a motion for something.
So I'm explaining that I'm passing that and moving to the next one.
So what is the motion?
I'm trying to say
Okay,
it.
sorry.
All right, so this would be the second one in that file, miscellaneous other PM changes from
The one
Mattson, whatever.
harassment and passive behavior.
So in harassment offensive behavior prohibition section. So my motion is to strike the comma and the phrase "or the chairman of the judicial committee" in that section.
I would second that.
It's moved and seconded. Do you want to speak to your change? And
Yes.
then Ms. Harlow, do you want to be first on deck to speak against?
Yes.
Okay.
So to speak to this, our bylaws specify what the role of the judicial committee is. The bylaws give them no role whatsoever in a process of, if somebody makes a complaint about harassment within, the LNC, even if a claim is sent to them, and if somebody, brings to the attention of the chair of the judicial committee a violation of this policy, there's nothing that they can take action on. They have no authority to do anything. So it makes somebody feel good that, and I understand that probably Ms. Harless is going to point out, well, if the violation were to involve the chair of the LNC, you don't want to have to send the complaint to the chair of the LNC. But sending to the chair of the JC gets you nothing. It's not a job that they have. They cannot take action on it. So that's why I'm proposing to strike it, lest someone from the outside think, oh, the JC can do something. Well, no, they really can't.
And Ms. Harlow, Mr. Hagan, Dr. Mark.
The only thing to forward it to, I don't think it implies at all that the JC can do anything about it, and Ms. Matson did anticipate what I was going to say, is that I think there needs to be several avenues, because some people may not feel comfortable, not just comfortable, it depersonal, if your complaint is with the chair, it depersonalizes it to have it delivered by another person other than the complainant. In a recent situation where there were some concerns, that letter was delivered to the judicial committee, who then delivered it to the chair. And it helped depersonalize and defuse the situation that wasn't personal. No one expected the chair of the judicial committee to do anything. In fact, the chair of the judicial committee didn't even read it. They were asked not to read it, just to transmit it. And because following in this paragraph, it says who's to take action. It's the LNC that takes action.
So I have Mr. Hagan, Dr. Lark, Mr. Goldstein, and if there's no objection, Mr. Stark. Dr. Lark. Oh, and then Ms. Adams. Yeah. Oh, you're right. I did. Sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Hagan, then Dr. Lark.
I move to amend it. Instead of crossing out "for the chairman of the judicial committee," change it to "for the vice chair."
There's a motion to amend, to change the amendment to amend the amendment to add "or the vice chair," the chair or the vice chair. Correct. And that's a second from Mr. Nicola. Okay. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
I understand when I first read this, I thought about that problem too, about if the chair was involved in the harassment, to have another option. It seems to me like vice chair may be logical, other option.
And that would solve my concern.
Dr. Lark.
Actually, this is a question about the language. I just want to be sure I understand Mr. Hagan's proposed amendment. It would be to the attention of the chair or the vice chair. The language that's been suggested is stricken, or the chair of the judicial committee, that would be stricken.
Right.
Thank you.
Did you want to?
Well, I was going to speak on the main motion, not the amendment.
You want to wait? If there's not objection, Mr. Stark in the gallery, and then also Ms. Adams. Hearing no objection, go ahead.
I think Mr. Hagan's proposal is a really good solution. And I'll tell you why you definitely want to go forward with that, and you definitely do not want the chairman of the judicial committee. Whenever you're dealing with a harassment issue, there are people who make charges, and they may not necessarily be true. And what you run the risk of doing is when you are informing an outside party, in this case the chair of the judicial committee is an outside party to all this, what you're doing is you're running the risk that you might be libeling or slandering somebody. So from a legal protection standpoint, you don't want to be sending stuff over to a separate somebody who's not even involved intimately here with the decision making, because the JC has no authority to make a decision, but the vice chair might be in a better position to do something because the vice chair deals with staff in the absence of the chair and so forth. So highly recommend that you adopt this and not have the chair of the Judicial Committee because of the legal exposure you're going to create yourself.
I have Ms. Adams, and then Mr. Smith, and then Mr. White.
So my concern with this would be that, certainly not with this.
And there's an audio problem with the feed, just FYI.
Certainly not with this current LNC, but we never know what's going to be in the future. I think we're going to limit to the chair of the rest of and so we can keep this under I would be far more supportive of a motion after I be a member of the LNC. I think that lends itself better to the possibility of a truly fair investigation in the competition.
Mr. Smith, and Mr. White without objection.
Yeah,
and Mr. Bishop mentioned.
I agree with what Sam said. I think that, it's fast and they going forward that sometimes the chair and vice chair can be more buddy-buddy. It would be.
What are you suggesting?
It could be upon any of us to report. Harassment. So I don't see why we couldn't just strike all that and say
I have, without objection, Mr. Wett and Mr. Bishop Henchman, and then Ms. Billiou. Do I see your hand? Do I not see your hand? I'll let you decide after. Yeah, Mr. Wett, go ahead.
I'm in favor of leaving the language as it is. To me, and when you're dealing with harassment or any offensive behaviors, you really do need this interested party. And unfortunately, everybody on this committee has some compromised interest in some sense. So I believe that leaving it as chair of the judicial committee as an option seems relevant.
Okay. Mr. Bishop Henchman, then maybe Ms. Billiou, then Mr. Merced, then Ms. Harless.
Responding to Mr. Smith and to Mr. Wen, whoever we in our policy manual designate as the recipient of claims has to be able to conduct an investigation. If we're directing people to somebody who does not have the resources or ability to conduct an investigation, such as the chair of the Judicial Committee or most of us as members of the LNC, we're doing a disservice to people who we're basically codifying that we're not going to investigate the claim. So for most organizations, they do designate somebody on the board, which this does, because generally this will involve harassment claims among the staff, not among the membership at large or anything like that. So the board is a disinterested person. I've also seen outside counsel included in this as well.
Outside or general?
General counsel. As long as it's not a staff member, I think we're doing good. I don't think it should be the chair of the Judicial Committee because, well, A, we don't have one right now, and B, this person will not be able to conduct an investigation or, be able to make it happen. So I do support, I think it was Mr. Hagan's amendment, and I hope we will adopt it.
Ms. Billiou, Mr. Merced, Ms. Harless.
I think I'm in favor of the original issue, removing the chairman of the Judicial Committee. I want that gone. But I am concerned about the other options. The other thing it says is that any violation of this policy should be brought to the attention. So it really just reads as a suggestion. Anyway, so someone could bring it to whoever they want. And if that person felt it needed to be escalated, then the chair. And then it would, of course, rest on somebody's shoulders for the actual investigation. So I think the word should might make this so that it's not as complicated as we think. But I adding vice chair to me is the next best thing.
Mr. Merced and Ms. Harless.
Lily, that was pretty much what I was going to say, so.
Ms. Harless.
Amen to what they said, but to answer any member of the LNC, not to bring up a past incident that, sometimes names and facts get leaked on the LNC list that shouldn't be. And I think having a policy of sending a potential complaint that could have private or potentially defamatory information to any member of the LNC, there could be a junior member who doesn't know that this isn't something they should post all over the place. I'd be very uncomfortable with it just being anyone. If we wanted it more people than chair, vice chair, maybe the executive committee. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying that's worlds better than just any LNC member.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing no further discussion on the amendment, are you prepared to move to a vote on the amendment? Okay, Ms. Billy? Yes. So the amendment would make the motion we're considering be that in addition to striking the chairman of the judicial committee, it would add the language for the vice chair. So that first sentence, if the amended motion was later adopted, would read, any violation of this policy should be brought to the attention of the chair or the vice chair. Everyone clear where we're at? So we're going to move to a vote on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Opposed? 13 to 1. The amendment passes. We are now on the underlying thing, and I'll come back to Dr. Lark. He was on deck.
The only point I was going to make is that with respect, since this is material from Mattson Lark, that I was going to support the striking of the language. I'm in favor of Mr. Hagan's amendment, which is now the main motion.
Okay. Is there any further discussion necessary on the main motion? Hearing no further discussion, is there any objection to the main motion as amended? Hearing no objection, that amendment is adopted. As a point of information, just as how it works, the last time I got one of these complaints is my immediate next step is that I refer it to our council. Even if I think it's a very spurious complaint, I refer it to our council, especially if it addresses me or it addresses an officer, because there's levels of fiduciary duty, and that becomes an organizational issue, and that needs to be done by somebody who's not at the table. And so that's the practice, even though we don't codify, even though we have an officer go take it to the general counsel. And I imagine if it was reported to the vice chair that I did something terrible, he would call Oliver and say, you should investigate this. That has worked for us in the past, the last time we had a complaint. Next motion.
Ms. Mattson, the first one, we skipped the fixed assets one. Were you saying that you now aren't in opposition to that?
No, I was saying if it didn't have your agreement on that change, that
I supported it, Mark supported it.
Oh, you supported it also?
Yes.
I thought that was, I thought you were saying that.
No, I was good with that.
The comment committee one was, okay, if you're good with it, I'm with it then.
Okay.
So let's back that to the first one.
So did this add that whole section, subsection 1, fixed assets?
No, that already exists. We're inserting that.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, that's it.
Wow.
That's what I was saying, look, we don't agree with the comment, you know.
Is there any need to discuss this comment? Sorry, is there a second? Sorry, is there a second for the, there's a second, all right. Does anyone need to speak to the comment?
Excuse me, don't open.
Don't mess it up.
If there is a member at the table who would like to hear from Mr. Stark, request that. And not hearing that, I don't hear any discussion of the comment. Is there any objection to adopting this amendment that would insert the comment? Hearing no objection, the amendment is adopted and the comment is inserted. Third one in this list is the indemnification. I believe that's Carlos. Do we have Carlos?
And this is the last one.
Yes. Did you decide on that? Ms. Metzger still thinking?
Just make it, and we'll see where we go.
Okay. On that page, it is.
Go ahead.
Okay. On your little sheet there, what it does is in the very last sentence, it strikes the words Libertarian National Committee and substitutes in organization. This was originally perhaps suggested by Dr. Lark, and I agree.
Okay, I thought, all right, so I had Dr. Lark as a maybe on that one. I'll second.
Okay, we got the
I
second.
support this.
Which of you three opposes this?
I support it.
Who opposes it?
So, just a little bit of order, just a little, teeny bit. Ms. Carlos, do you need to speak to that?
No.
Okay. Dr. Lark?
No, the reason it says Lark is maybe is because I'm frankly not sure that there isn't a good reason to keep Libertarian National Committee here. When you say organization, I think it's clear to most people to which organization you're referring, but it says an officer, employee, or agent of the Libertarian Party. I could see someone basically wait a minute, which organization are we referring to? Or to which, I should say, to which organization are we referring? And thus, I guess I had a question as to whether that's, well, it's an irritation of which we should not have put. I thought that was funny.
All three of us.
So it's not going to cause me to cry myself to sleep if we make a change in this, but I think there is actually a value for leaving Libertarian National because that removes any possibility of ambiguity.
Okay, so.
With the consent of the body, I would like to withdraw that
No, it's moved. I mean, here's the thing. I will ask, does anyone object to withdrawing the motion? Okay, so it is the body's. Right. Ms. Mattson, did you want to speak?
Yeah, and I'm not going to try if this doesn't pass, but some of the changes that did not have agreement and involved places where.
As far as I know, we checked, the audio is going.
Sorry,
It was not
I
out.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had gotten a text from Mr. Molden that they had lost audio, so.
We could not verify the audio was not working.
They've got it back up.
Reload the computer as audio.
All right, good. I apologize for the interruption.
It's out for you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Mattson.
I think there are probably some other places where we use the Libertarian National Committee incorporated that probably ought to be just Libertarian National Committee, but, you know, there's already a little bit of confusion in there between the incorporated entity versus the board. And when I got to this section, the reason I proposed it at all was, you know, when I see Libertarian National Committee, I think this board right here. But the board isn't necessarily incorporated, the entity is incorporated, the party is incorporated, and I was like, well, instead of just having to pick which of the phrases this ought to be, just put the organization, because technically the board isn't incorporated, we're just the governing body of the organization. So that's why I proposed it at all, and you know, if we leave it as is, I'm not going to stay with it.
Are we prepared to move to a vote? If we're prepared to move to a vote, a yes vote would adopt this change from the Libertarian National Committee to organization. A no vote would leave it the way it is. Any questions? All in favor of adopting this change, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 to 6. The motion fails. The change is not adopted. The next, pick your poison.
Okay, the next is.
How much time do we have, Mr. Redpath?
We have about 6 minutes, 6.5.
Okay, the next one, it's a list where if you agreed on one, you're probably going to agree on them all. It's gender neutrality changes.
It's PM disputed gender neutrality changes.
Correct. Everywhere where it says he or she, I had recommended changing it to they, himself or herself to themselves, his or her to their. It's all along those lines. There's one that is a little bit different where it says like spokesman, I changed to spokesperson. So they're all of the same nature. I don't think we need to move each of them individually. This is the motion I would make I would move that we make the conforming gender neutrality changes as necessary and indicated in this list in the policy manual.
Okay. That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Do you need to speak to it more?
1 second, I would. This, whether we like it or not, this is the way language is going. And I would rather us be ahead of the curve because I think these changes are going to need to be made eventually. Those people who really, really don't like it, you're facing a losing battle. This is where it's going. And I hate to tell you, but there has been used as a singular for when it's an unknown gender for a long time.
Dr. Lark.
Well, I'm going to stand for history in this case. I just prefer the he or she rather than the they. Again, I'm an old stick in the mud, but I said it and I'm proud.
If there's no objection, Ms. Adams.
I'd like to speak in favor of the motion, in favor of the changes. We have heard a lot of talk recently from each other and from presenters about meeting people where they are and being more open and more willing to embrace people who are coming from maybe different places than we are. And I really believe that the ability to make these changes shows that we're not really willing to put our money where our mouth is and be embracing actually.
Mr. Ford, and then if someone would like to hear from Mr. Starr, they can request it. Mr. Ford and Mr. Smith.
I'm in support of the change. I'm a city father of two 20-somethings who, as part of their day-to-day language, is also their daughters actually have conversations and answer the phone. They bring new and modern together with the old school. I'm in favor of the change. It's time to upgrade the language.
Mr. Smith.
I'm from California, and this is pretty commonplace where I live. At the end of the day, it harms no one and it helps several, so there's no reason to really not make the change.
Mr. Hagan and Mr. Phillips.
I was request to hear what Mr. Starr has to say.
Is there objection? Without objection.
You know, I'm just old school. But I feel like we sort of embracing today's, I want to call it woke politics. And I just don't like the direction where that's going overall. And candidly, I think that it's the folks that tend to, not exclusively, but a lot of the folks that are pushing this movement are candidly rather cynics. I just feel really uncomfortable with us embracing that. I understand there's merit to the argument, the other side, but that's kind of where I'm coming from. It just really concerns me.
Mr. Phillips, and then I have all these folks on go. Mr. Phillips, Mr. Merced, Mr. Michaela, or you can tell me which order. Mr. Phillips.
We go around telling people that we are the champion of LGBT rights and have been long before the old parties. So not making this change is crazy, just plain and simple. And I call the question.
Is there objection to ending debate? There is objection to ending debate. All in favor of ending debate, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ms. Matson, are you also raising your hand?
No.
Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, so opposed, raise your hand again, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just making sure I didn't miss somebody. So 9 to 4.
No, it's 9 to 5. 9 to 5, 3, 4, 5.
It was 5.
How did Whitney vote?
Myself or Longstrip?
It was 1, 2, 3, 4,
It's
5.
9 to 5.
Fails. It's 2/3.
It fails because it's 2/3 to end debate. Thank you for appreciate the correction.
1 minute.
Continue debate. We have 1 minute left. I have Mr. Merced and Mr. Michaela. Then Mr. Wendt, if there's no objection, and Mr. Longstrip.
Okay, so bottom line is like this evolution language, while whatever people may say about different movements and different sources, whether they like them or not, sometimes someone you disagree with 90%, is right 10% of the time. And I think this is a smart evolution, cultural change that makes language clearer, more deliberate, and I think there's no reason not to.
Mr. McKayla.
Back in my journalism days, we used to use their in place of his or her, and there's nothing grammatically against rules-wise using their. It's something a little bit cleaner and more inclusive. As far as language goes, I think it's a worthwhile change.
Is there objection? Go ahead, Mr. Black.
So he or she might very easily we're not trying to play people.
Mr. Monster.
So this is not appeal to this level culture, they, there, them, all that is standard. The C, she, here, co, they, those would be playing forward. That's not what this proposal is. So I would urge you passing this for amendment.
I believe time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Longstreth. We are out of time on the item. Orders of the day would have us move to a vote on this motion, and then we would be expired in time for these amendments. So what I will do is I'll move to a vote. Is there a need to have this be roll call, or can we do it by hands?
I request for roll call.
There's a request for roll call. Okay. Do you have your list ready, or you get there? So my intention is to do the roll call vote with our time being expired. I will then entertain any motions for an extension of time if it's deemed necessary.
Ms. Van Horn?
Yes, that's for the change, right?
For the change, yes.
Mr. Smith? Yes. Mr. Redpath?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Ford?
Yes.
Mr. McKayla?
Bye-bye.
Mr. Brissett?
Yes.
Ms. Matson? Mr. Longstreth?
Yes.
Dr. Lodge?
Nay.
Mr. Hewitt?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Hagan?
Yes.
Mr. Goldstein?
Yes.
Mr. Bishop Henchman?
Aye.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
It is 13-2 with the chair on the vote.
No, thank you. Mr. Hagan,
Move to extend time for 10 minutes.
so motion to extend for 10. Is there objection to extending for 10 on this item? I hear no objection to extending for 10. It's some pain noises. They don't count. We'll be extended for 10 minutes. I would recognize either Ms. Matson or Ms. Harlos. Ms. Harlos.
Okay, the next one is disputed changes of spelling out executive director once and everywhere else using the abbreviation ED. So on page 48, you can see it says executive director, then paren, ED, close paren, and the rest is just making conforming changes to delete executive director and changing it to ED. One is slightly different. It's in the second sentence on page 48 there. It just said the director, which was strange to begin with. It should have always said executive director, and I put ED there as well. But all the other ones are just taking out executive director and putting in ED. I'll make it quick.
Don't know if I can pass. Is there a second? Second. All right, so got a second.
Briefly to speak to it, we've done this with a lot of abbreviations in here. We've done it with the LNC, we've done it with APRC, with each of the committees. I don't see why we wouldn't do it with the executive director, except for the fact that those two initials sometimes bring up something else in one's mind. But other than that, I see no issue.
I don't understand.
Mr. Fishman is real. No problem. Would anyone like to speak again? Ms. Matson.
So usually you use acronyms for like long phrases, employment status, and compensation committee. Executive director is just not a terribly long word. So it's just a preference of mine that a phrase this short, and every other commercial break on TV these days is about ED. Just keep the original phrase.
Mr. Goldstein.
I've got a question. Shouldn't the
No, we haven't done that with any of the other acronyms.
Actually, a fight I have with Reason's style editor, because they insist that the rejected party has to be with periods, even though the initialism for the
GOP
party, it doesn't get periods, and not for us, but I still can't get them to change the parties. Ms. Adams. Is there any objection to hearing from Mr. Starr? Hearing no objection, Mr. Starr.
I guess I don't see really added value. I mean, it seems like when I listen to the radio and every half hour I get to listen to an ad about ED. And I just really don't want to associate that with our executive director. And I don't want to know. So given that this really doesn't add anything, it doesn't shorten anything, it really, I just don't see any value. If you want to do anything, sure, add the word executive in front of that one word director that you got. That's the only change I would make, but let's just not associate the executive director with ED. It's just unseemly in some way.
All right, and Mr. Merced and Mr. Fishman.
I think he mentioned that basically, I'm fine with the ED, or I'm fine with the substitute motion to add executive in front of that director, as long as it just ends up being consistent. I think that's the end goal here.
Mr. Fishman, do you have anything to add to the discussion?
Well, I will not volunteer any information. I would ask if the body is familiar with the initials XO. Does anybody know what that stands for? I have been using xd@lp.org as my email address. And if the body would consider using XD, I would say that is...
Right?
Huh?
You know that's an emoji, right?
Yes, which may define me as well.
Okay. As long as you're okay with it.
I have Mr. Smith, I'm going to go to Mr. Good, and back to the Mr. Smith would like to end the debate. Is there objection to end the debate? Hearing no objection, especially from anyone who is in the queue, the debate will be ended on this item, and we'll move to a vote. And I vote will be to adopt all of the changes that are listed in PM disputed changes read ED. A no vote would be to leave everything the way it is right now. As a point of information, it would be appropriate if this amendment fails to have a new amendment that would have that executive that's missing in that one spot. And I would entertain such a motion if this motion does not pass. So, do we need this one to be roll call, or can we do hands? I'm going to do hands. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I count 7, is that right? Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It fails. Do I hear a motion to add executive in front of director on page 48 after right of the LNC to discharge the? Is that a?
Josh, one more.
Sure. Smith, Merced, Adams, lots of people. Is there any need for discussion on this motion that has been moved and seconded? Hearing no discussion, is there any objection to adoption of this motion that's been moved and seconded? Hearing no objection to adoption, it is adopted. Where are we on time, Mr. Redpath?
We have 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Point of information.
Point of information, Mr. Hagan.
Policy manual, page 6, terms of definition. One line says ED is executive director. That's no longer, is that no longer used in the rest of the policy manual? Does anybody know, or we could delete that line?
I don't know if we ever use ED other than these conforming changes, but having it in the definition section, I mean, I don't think it's a problem. Okay. I mean, if other people think it's a problem, now would be the time to make a motion, but I think there are other motions that people wanted to make while we're still inside time. So I will entertain a motion from either Ms. Matson or Ms. Harless. Ms. Harless got her hand up first.
In
Okay, okay.
The first
no
one,
longer.
I would like to move to postpone till tomorrow. I think we're a little bit tired of this. The one I think is going to require a lot of discussion, which is disputed changes regarding numbers. I would like to move that to business tomorrow.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend.
Actually, the rest of the three. I'd like to move the rest of it to tomorrow.
How long do you anticipate will be necessary to deal with the rest of the three?
20 minutes.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the agenda to add an item for policy manual amendments for 20 minutes tomorrow at the end of new business. I mean, to add it, do we want to add it first thing tomorrow, or do you want to put it at the back of the other things?
Yeah, first thing before.
So it's a motion to amend the agenda to add 20 minutes to deal with policy manual changes tomorrow after opportunity for public comment. It's moved and seconded. Is there objection to amending the agenda in that fashion? There is objection. So we will proceed to a vote. All in favor of amending the agenda to add the 20 minutes for that consideration tomorrow morning, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Count 4. Opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is not quite 2/3. So we will continue on this. Would you like to make a motion?
What are we at time?
Probably about 2 minutes unless I have lost my internal time.
We have a minute and a half.
Got pretty close.
Okay, I'm going to skip to some that I think we can do. I would like to, if we're miscellaneous remaining disputed changes on page 10, I would like to add a vice chair's report to required officer reports in the policy manual.
It's moved and seconded to add a vice chair's report to required officers' reports. You need to speak to it.
It's what we've been doing, and I think all officers should have to give reports.
Okay. Anyone would like to speak against it? Ms. Mattson?
So the reason I didn't consent on this one is we have a vice chair that wishes to submit one. The LNC is happy to have him submit one and hear from him, but the vice chair's role doesn't have fixed duties, and so to require him to report on many of these things, I think that's why it's not there now. So if he has something to report, we're happy to hear it. We can take it out if they have something to say, but I don't see it. I need to force an expert report for a position that doesn't really have any sense.
Well, I agree with Ms. Mattson with the vice chairs. Plus, as a member of the LNC, I like to be informed about what our executive committee is doing. Just, for my own information. And I believe that our constituents support that.
Time. We have.
Is there any objection to extending time on Okay. So there, seeing no further debate, orders of the day are I will move to a vote on this amendment. The amendment would add on page 10 vice chair's report to the officers' reports that are required. Can we do this by hands? Okay. All in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Opposed? 3. 12 to 3, the amendment passes. We are out of time. Absent the motion to extend, the orders of the day will move to the data sharing request agenda item. Is there a motion to extend and consider policy manual changes for longer?
No, I will do this.
Okay, there is no motion to extend. So, Mr. Phillips, this is your agenda item for 20 minutes. Would you like to hear from it? Or would you like to make a motion? Are we doing this procedurally? Is this a motion or is this a request for you to hear your presentation?
It's a request to hear a presentation.
Okay. Is there any objection to Mr. Phillips' request to hear this presentation? Hearing no objection, go ahead, either Ms. Jorgensen or Mr. Hopkins. And thank you so much for sitting through our delightful meeting.
Hey, I'm Joe Jorgensen. I was Harry Brown's 1996 running mate, and I just wanted to speak for maybe, for maybe like 50 seconds on the Harry Brown campaign and what I'm doing now. Is that okay? Okay, great. So when you're running a presidential campaign, you can really go, probably 3 different strategies. You can go after education, you can go after votes, or you can try to increase membership. And presidential campaigns seem to fall into 2 camps. Some of them will work closely with the national party, and others tend to have their own little party going. And separate entities. So when Harry Brown and I ran in 1996, we chose to increase membership, and we did it by working closely with the national party, very closely. And with that unity, we were able to double the party membership in 2 years. So now that I'm running for the presidential nominee, that is the tax that I would take. Because when Harry Brown changed in 2000 to go after just increased votes, it didn't work out as well for the party. And I can just tell you real quick, when I was the VP nominee, or when I was going after the nomination, I went to 32 different states. And I say this tongue-in-cheek. I actually went to more states and raised more money than all of Harry Brown's competitors combined. Now, granted, he only had Rick Tompkins and Irwin Schiffman, but I still went to more campaigns than they did combined. So, as I said, what I would like to do as a candidate is to work closely with the party to try to build membership. I think that needs to be the #1 thing. And Joe Helpman, my campaign manager, is going to come up and talk about that. Any quick questions while he's on his way up? Great, come on up, Joe.
Okay. A little luck will get you out early. Proposal, all of you have it. It's a half sheet. The rest is just basically information on our campaign. The key at the beginning is, as you say, we want to work with the LNC, and part of it, we're going to do it whether you want it or not. We have already on our campaign website put join the Libertarian Party as a button right next to our donation button on every page. And that goes directly to you, the process, although we've been told we will get a count as to how many, just so we can get a feel as to the effect. We will continue regularly talking to our supporters to urge them to join. This does us no advantage in the nomination since the delegates are already sent. If you wish to send information to our delegates or to our supporters, we will be glad to do that even before the nomination. And we will continue to do this so long as our website is up. Specifically, we do not request or expect any action on your part prior. Okay? This is not asking you to do anything for us. This is just to show how we believe this should be done. This is not exclusive. You can play with it. You can discuss it. We will post it on our website. We will send it to our opponents. If they want to take it completely as is, that's fine. I've been involved in the party since the Ed Clark campaign. We have spent most of our time basically tossing bread upon the water and watching it sink. We have had terrible follow-up, and as I said at the New Orleans convention, we're just too damn small. So our campaign is geared 100% to increasing membership. We'd like folks to come to that, but the goal is to increase the membership. Now, all we ask is if we get the nomination, we treat each other equally. Whatever you want to do. In Harry's campaign, we did the best we could to get you the information as quickly as possible. We would ask any inquiries you get, we also get. We will do that in real time if possible. That is totally up to your IT people.
Okay, we will arrange our database so that it is in compliance with your database. The whole goal is to increase our base. Okay, that song, I'm so old, I don't even know what generation it's from. It's all about the base. Okay?
All your base belong to us.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm still a physics teacher. I'm used to trying to keep people attention. All right?
At least you didn't sing it.
The only thing is, beg your pardon?
At least you didn't say.
No. I want a good response from you. That's basically it. All we want to say is we think the importance of this election is to try and increase the people who identify with us. We're not going after passion. Those who drunk deeply of the red Kool-Aid will be fighting deeply with those who drink deeply of the blue Kool-Aid. They will be attacking each other with Dobermans. We're not going to spend our time sending a hamster up their leg to try to nip them. Okay? They can attack better. They can afford it better. They're more experienced at it. I believe our campaign is to try and find those people who are disgusted with both Kool-Aid drinkers. Bring them into our party, because eventually a centralist party will exist. It will either be centralist authoritarian or it will be centralist libertarian. People will either try to slowly cut the government back, or they will try to slow the increase. I think the radicals will control the next election. I don't think that's my opinion and our campaign's opinion, the way to go. We want to give you as many names as you can get. What you do with them is your, how you appeal to them is your decision. I will also only say that we will also keep the names. But our goal is not to hoard them. Our goal is to create something that, quite frankly, has never existed in any extent, and that is there's a Republican list out there, there's a Democrat list out there, and each election we reinvent the Libertarian list and then lock it in a vault and don't let anyone look at it. And I, for one, am tired of that. And that's why I support a candidate who wants this party to grow. Any questions? Mainly on the technical end, but I'll take any.
Alex, seem to be recognized. Is there any other, is there anyone else up there? Is Alex this report? Is Alex go ahead?
Supportive information.
Yes.
And I absolutely do not mean any disrespect.
I'm a teacher, I'm used to it.
I really don't know. But our agenda says that this is a data sharing request.
Yes.
And that is not what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing a request for any action from this LNC at this time.
That is correct. The
So I'm
reason
not sure
being,
this is in order.
okay, I will explain how we understood it. And I'm not the one in charge of setting this agenda.
Just to address the point of order correctly, the request from Mr. Phillips was for the agenda time. I clarified at the beginning of the agenda time whether or not he wanted to have a motion or he wanted to hear the presentation. I requested to hear the presentation. He didn't have an objection. So it's in order. It's within the agenda. I may have mistitled the agenda item, not knowing fully that there would not be a request for that. So with that, go ahead.
Okay. The reason I did not request action is I'm well aware of the LNC's policy of not favoring one candidate over another, and therefore I did not request any action at this time. However, I have sat on the LNC. I've also worked on national campaigns, and I'm well aware that the sharing of data has been a problem since at least the Clark campaign. That's only 1980. I wanted to get this out so that you can decide what it is you want. You know what we are willing to do. I want you to talk to all of the candidates. That is the reason we gave it to you. It's so that rather than have a nominee, okay, who basically has a sword at your throat, okay, after getting the nomination, I want to have something that you know, hopefully, other candidates will agree to, so that we don't waste time fighting about that, and that so we do make use of the information. Okay, and I apologize if the terminology I used was wrong. I'm an old fart. You know.
I have Mr. Gordon and Mr. Longstreth. Mr. Gordon.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued. I'd like to understand specifically how you plan to grow membership vis-a-vis your campaign. I mean, what are the mechanics, and how would you plan on representing the party?
Okay, I mean, I'm glad to answer that, but that's more as to arguing for my campaign as opposed to someone else's campaign, which I'm going to do if no one objects. Okay.
That's his question.
All right. Okay. Mainly a couple of things that we're going to do different. One, we're not going to try to go after people who have drunk the red Kool-Aid or the blue Kool-Aid. There are a lot of people who are basically disgusted with the situation we have right now. Okay, the tribalism that is being developed. We are going to focus on those voters. How we're going to do it, for one thing, we are only going to go to states that want us. Okay, I was there active in the party when Arizona ran its own presidential campaign rather than the candidate that the National Committee chose. If people don't want us, if they disagree with us, if they are totally into boot to the head, okay, that's fine. We're not going to fight with them. That's their state. We're into state rights. Okay, the idea is to build the parties that want to grow. If you want to grow, we'll help you grow. If you don't want to grow, we won't. In terms of advertising, we'll probably use it as online as much as we can because we're not rich. We don't have. I like her, but she's not a millionaire. Okay, she can't write a couple $1 million check to do that. And the other thing is, we are going to be realistic about earned media. The fight is between the Reds and the Blues. Okay, having worked on campaigns as far back as Ed Clark's and Andre's, we will go after secondary markets. Okay, I'm well aware that Joe showing up in LA is not going to be a big story. But I'm willing to bet a couple 100 miles from LA, that's going to be a different story. So again, we are not going to pretend to be red, blue, and yellow. I have no desire to develop a yellow brand of Kool-Aid. My desire is to try to expand.
Sorry.
It's not. All right, I'm colorblind. It didn't occur to me, okay? Someone got hung up on their EE.
That said, when it comes time to data and that sort of thing, I would urge you or our campaign to come up because that about those specific requests. The LNC really changed over, obviously, once Joe has that foundation. Just give the district some of these members getting that on that group.
I totally understand that. The National Committee will do with its data as it wishes. We are willing to, you'll notice it says, do whatever you want. If the next National Committee decides, no, it's ours, mine, okay, fine. That's your choice. Okay, our goal is to build a party. If the party doesn't want to be built, you know, we can't do anything about that.
Well, that's the problem. The bottom is not. I would be supportive of these guys.
Right. Okay. The main thing I wanted to avoid is what has happened often in the past is negotiations go on back and forth, And basically, I mean, I'll be honest, I was the campaign director for Gary Johnson in the last election in Indiana. The information we got from Gary Johnson campaign was crap. I know that because I was the state chair at the same time, and I know that that information bore no resemblance whatsoever to reality. Okay? I want to avoid that happening.
Ms. Matson, and then, go ahead.
So I can't complain that much about the topics that have come up here today. Aaron and I sent an email to our list about a key on the electric fence. So, you know, I'm fine with that. But I would like to request to Mr. Starr ask some questions from the gallery.
Is there any objection, Mr. Starr, asking a question from the gallery? Hearing no objection, Mr. Starr.
Yes, I really want to thank you for bringing up the subject. I go back to the Clark campaign as well. Probably one of my favorite candidates was Harry Brown, the Joe Jorgensen campaign. There was a lot of great interaction, or coordination, I guess, I'd say, between the Brown campaign and the LNC. Probably because it seemed like Harry Brown was going to be the nominee almost no matter what, just because he was so popular, but causing problems with internal stuff because it seemed like we were playing some favoritism. But it does lead me to, and of course, since then, we've had issues where at least 2008, 12, and 16, we really didn't have any well-executed, at least not timely, agreements between the LNC and the presidential campaigns, and we left a lot on the table because we didn't get the information of who the prospects were going into the presidential campaigns. And candidly, we've done really, really well, and we coordinated very well early on to go after these folks and bring them in as new donors, which we absolutely need. So my question, and I don't know who to direct this to, but maybe it's to the chair, has to do with, is there anything being done to develop an agreement now that we can allow folks who are candidates, I don't know how you define them, maybe someone who's FEC, I don't know, where we can have some sort of arrangements with them, but at least for them to provide information to us, so that whoever gets selected, it's going to be a really easy handoff, so that we're not spending 2-3 months just digging around before we can actually have an agreement that makes us all work together.
No.
And I'm sorry for the word dickering. That's the word that came up with.
It's just the niggling point. I have never been a fan of developing the data sharing agreement in the abstract. I understand the desire, and we've gone around a couple of times on bylaws about it. I get the pros, I get the cons. This is, I mean, in my impression, this is a first step. This is a campaign seeking our nomination, throwing down the gauntlet. And to some extent, I believe that there was a preemptive first step from another campaign earlier today, picking up the gauntlet to make sure that that particular gauntlet was not a point of division between two of the nominees. So I think it's good that this is being brought up by the campaigns, and it's not the LNC saying this is what we want you to do, it's the campaigns challenging each other to make the best pitch to the party to be beneficial to the party. I am happy to work with any campaign that wants to try and develop an agreement that they would feel good about and task our council to work on at least deal points. I think deal points are probably the best we're going to get prior to Austin. An actual like line-by-line contract, I don't think you get that. But I think if you get deal points that people will adopt publicly, like data will be shared within a week of receipt, you know, those sort of things, then you can, all of you in Austin can go ask the candidates whether or not they agree to the deal points, and you know, we all have video in our pocket, and it can be encouraging to people if there's video of them saying they're going to do something to make sure that they get that thing done. Mr. Phillips.
Just I'd like to point out that there's a certain other campaign through them that gauntlet first.
Gauntlets everywhere.
Time is up, Mr.
Time is
Chairman.
expired. Is there a motion to extend? Hearing no motion to extend. Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. Thank you for your Jorgensen. The next item on the agenda is a policy manual amendment regarding electronic mail ballots. Mr. Hayden.
This is in OneNote, policy manual, section 1.04, subsection 1, electronic mail ballots. It says notification of electronic mail ballot shall be made by the secretary by electronic mail. And I move to add after that, within 3 days of a question being submitted by the chair or first co-sponsored by a sufficient number of LNC members.
I heard the motion. Did I hear a second? Second, do you need to speak to it?
Sure. It's currently right now, it doesn't say there's no time limit when how long secretary can sit on a motion versus submits it. And about 3 days would be reasonable. Secretary could be out camping for a weekend and not have, may not. I don't care if those guys or not.
I do.
Okay. So it could be gone for a couple days, and about 3 days may be reasonable. And also put in there, it just says sufficient number of LNC members because the number is in the bylaws. If for some reason bylaws would change, they would, if we put it in this, then we have to change this also.
Ms. Matson and Mr. Patrick.
Certainly it's not harmful, but I don't know, if you put a rule, say you have to do it within 3 days, then maybe the psychology of that plays out, well, I don't have to do it for 30 days. And most of the time we get them within a day, right? So, I don't know, it could kind of have a psychological effect where it makes some things longer. I do want to point out that the bylaws were amended, so this is a policy manual amendment. The section of the bylaws that authorizes electronic mail ballots has been amended to say the chair or secretary. So if the secretary is indisposed or whatever, the chair can send it out already. So we kind of have a backup process already. So I think we got a path around that already exists in the bylaws.
Move to amend 3 days to 24 hours. I think in practice we've met that. Last convention, the delegates reduced the time period of voting for electronic ballots from 10 days to 7 days, in part because we have difficulty doing it in less than 10 days. In practice, the chair rarely votes. Some people wait till the last day. So whatever the maximum is tends to be what we default to. And so my worry is this will essentially return us to taking 10 days on electronic ballot.
Other discussion?
Where is this in the OneNote, please?
I'm sorry, was
It's the
that
very first item under new business.
point of information?
Okay.
Did I hear it wrong? I thought he was making a motion to amend. So we need to, before we move to.
You're right. Sorry, I did not catch that.
But once the date begins,
The second is there. Do you need to speak to it more? Okay. Mr. Longstreet?
I'm against the amendment, primarily because of 2 days, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. That's all I got.
Okay. Are we prepared to move to a vote on the amendment? The amendment would take, and to answer the point of information, in the OneNote is the first item under new business and previous notice, policy manual amendment 1.0.4 or 1.04. Prepared to move to a vote on the amendment. The amendment changes 3 days to 24 hours. A vote in favor amends the motion to be 24 hours. Vote against leaves the motion the original Hagan motion. In favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The amendment fails. Is there need for further discussion on the underlying motion? Is there objection to the underlying motion?
Yeah.
There is objection. So we'll proceed to a vote. Will hands be sufficient? Not hearing a request for a roll call. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Opposed? 1. 12 to 1, the motion carries. The amendment's adopted. Orders of the day are evening adjournment. It is.
For that 10 minutes for debate participation, we added to the agenda.
It was added to
tomorrow.
At least as the agenda was written, it was tomorrow. Dr. Lark, then Mr.
Actually, I think Mr. Smith beat me to it.
I was wondering if my persuading colleague who was changing the line to address that for 2 minutes, sorry, 2 minutes.
I would suggest that we typically do opportunity for public comment at the end of business for the day. And at that time, it would be completely in order. So be around. Dr. Lark, then Mr. Redpath.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move, since I'm hoping that there's not going to be a lot to be said, I would like to move to change the agenda to move the regional reports forward, that we go perhaps a little past our proposed adjournment time today, but let's go ahead and get the regional reports out of the way.
There's a motion to amend the agenda to deal with the regional reports now and then move to evening adjournment after.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second to that motion?
Point of inquiry.
Yes.
Just, is all that is left on the agenda, basically, other than opportunity for public comment, 10 minutes for pet and young child membership and 10 minutes for debate participation and the regional reports and announcements? Is that it?
That is correct, in absence of there being, say, a renewed motion to go back to finish our policy manual amendments tomorrow. So right now, the intent is to take those by email if there were a renewed motion. But yes, with the agenda as currently adopted and as amended, that is all that is left.
I object to that. I object to that.
That's fine. I wasn't going to do it without a vote. I didn't think it was going to be without a vote.
It hasn't been seconded.
No, I got the second. I thought I did.
Right.
I thought I got the second right before his point of inquiry came up. And so I didn't really acknowledge the second. I just went to the. This is debatable, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Van Horn, yes.
Question. Are we talking just the agenda today or the whole weekend? Is this?
So what Dr. Lark's motion is to do is to move all of the regional reports to today prior to the evening adjournment. That's the only change.
Okay, so anything else on there for tomorrow would still be.
For tomorrow.
And there would still be opportunity for new business without previous notice.
It will be a short meeting in the morning.
Okay.
Point of information, is there something planned for tomorrow afternoon?
We already had a short enough agenda. We were all going to make the thing for tomorrow afternoon, but yes, there is something planned. Ms. Van Horn, did that answer your question?
My second question ties into all this, but I had a couple of things I wanted to talk to people about, but they might be introduced under new business without previous notice tomorrow, just for discussion of the LNC.
Motions to amend the agenda to add those things tomorrow will be in order tomorrow.
Okay, great.
Mr. Hewitt?
I object wholeheartedly and collectively to Mr. Dr. Lark, to his motion, because it takes a lot of time to get the press and this particular material together. So, no, I'm against it wholeheartedly.
Okay, so you would like to leave the agenda as it is?
Or at least for Region 4. It's all right, everything but Region 4.
The motion has been made. It has been seconded. I believe that I answered all the questions, and I believe that I have heard from the people who wish to argue for or against the motion. So to restate the motion, Dr. Lark moved to amend the agenda of the regional reports to today, now, immediately followed by evening adjournment after opportunity for public comment, and then leave the rest of the agenda as is. All in favor of that, raise your hand.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I got confused.
Sure. All in favor of the amendment to the agenda to move the regional reports to today, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think it fails. Not quite 2/3. 6 6 in favor, 9 against. With that, orders of the day are to move the evening adjournment, although we do usually do opportunity for public comment. Mr. Phillips is going to go help Mr. Shannon be in the room at the point that I get to the request. Mr. Krause.
Sure. For all of you who have not had an opportunity to explore this wonderful town and some of the other casinos, I really recommend what I call gun shop residue, GSR. Grand Sierra Resort has a lot of really fun stuff. It's practically an amusement park. There's bumper cars, there's race cars, there's all kinds of games and stuff, a huge game room. If you just want to go somewhere and have fun other than the casino and just play, I recommend Grand Sierra Resort. It's very family friendly also if you have family. So just go have fun tonight. And then we're going to have more fun tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
I'd like to ask about could I ask a few things? Yeah, where's the party going to be? What's going to be going on? Is there food there?
Of course, what do you expect at a Super Bowl? I'm sorry, a velvet bowl.
I've never watched the Super Bowl before in my life.
There will be, I'm sure that's such, your nose just hit. This poor gentleman on the other side, our sheriff, and he's injured, and I think you need to apologize to him.
It's our ballot party tomorrow.
There will be wonderful food. Wings, chicken wings, for example, lots of wings, and lots of other food. And there will be beer and wine and soda.
And I will be asking you all to make contributions to ballot access while we're there.
Because it's a ballot access.
Because it is a ballot access fundraiser, and so hopefully you all will donate some extra funds. In the presidential suite here.
In room 2752. Don't go there, and I'll publish it before, but don't go there before 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay.
3 o'clock. The people. It's in the resort tower.
Okay.
3 o'clock.
Mr. Krause, you're good. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Hagan has a question for you, Mr. Krause.
Sure. Some of the other information about this mentioned the 29th or 26th floors. Can we put signs on those 2 floors? Move to 27.
Yeah, they were kept switching around rooms because they're running, they were actually, they're booked.
I broadcast this out to the Washoe County Libertarian Party Facebook, so we had a sign on the 29th and 26th or whatever one.
It was 26 previously.
They're booked. When I checked in last night, they said, we don't book, your room is not there anymore, but we're upgrading you. So they put me in the hospitality suite in this wing. And I've got like mega space.
I have a lot of space.
It's like,
and I believe Dan has more answers to your questions.
Okay. Mr. Fishman, do you have comments?
One quick comment for those of you who are not familiar. This is a Super Bowl square sheet at the Ballot Access Bowl. We would ask you to write your name into your initial into one of these boxes for the opportunity to win some money and contribute to ballot access. I will have the sheet here. One square is $10. You will not have the knowledge beforehand of what the numbers are. People say, oh, I want to get 7-0. Yes, everybody would like to get 7-0. The numbers will be filled in afterwards. We will find a nonpartisan person, if we find one, to fill in the numbers afterwards, but we want to fill all the boxes in before the game starts tomorrow. So I will leave the sheet here.
you take cash, you take cards, you take Venmo.
Yes, I can take a card and I can take cash. We could take them.
Cash up to $100.
No. Huh?
Cash would take up to $100.
Right. Cash I can take up to $100.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Fishman? Any other questions for Mr. Fishman? Shannon? Go ahead.
I know you guys are easy, want to get out of here. I'm gonna make it really short. I do believe that brevity is the better part of valor. My name is Boomer Shannon. I am here today to announce that I'm running for an at-large on CC in Austin. Real quick, I want to introduce myself to those of you who don't know me. I've been an activist for liberty since before I could be legally able to vote. I snuck into my first LNC, my first Libertarian Party convention in 2004. Shortly after that, I started knocking doors and building campaigns for campaigns like No on 8, Regular Marijuana Lifeline, etc. I've seen a lot of electoral success, so I'm very excited to share that with you. I began to lead volunteers and found myself learning a lot. I've worked for the Bar Root campaign here at Johnson twice. I've seen many failures and a few successes that I'm very proud of. These lessons are many and hard earned. I love this party. I love the people that make up the delegation here. In talking to delegates, I think they're hungry for electoral success. I offer my body, my mind, and my riches, and whatever is left of my sanity to this committee and to the delegates so that we might be able to pursue better electoral access. I hope that I can count on all of your support. Those of you that are in the room, those of you watching at home, my name again is Boomer Shane. I'm running for LNC at large. Thank you.
Is there any other people seeking to be recognized for public comment? Seeing no other people seeking to be recognized for public comment, I have a public comment. Thanks to the efforts of Ms. DeSisto, we have acquired a new lifetime member of the Libertarian Party. His name is Nat Green. He's written 2 books.
He's written 4 books.
Okay, but only 2 I knew about.
Yeah, you can find the others on Amazon, but.
We may be working on another book soon. In any event, I asked around of the 2 that were widely known. One is called Wedge, the other is called Stop Guessing. And this was recommended as the better of the 2, although I'm sure they're both excellent. So in an effort to make us all be better, from time to time I use the chair's discretionary fund to get materials for LNC members and alternates that may want to be better. And so if you would like to be better, LNC members and alternates are welcome to take a copy of this book that is sitting right over there at the table and read it in good health.
Thank you.
All right.
My alternate for my region isn't here. Can I take one?
You may take one for your alternate for your region.
And if you have any questions about Nat, who he is, what his philosophies are, I mean, his books really do outline who he is. I'm happy to answer. And I hope that you and I get to talk anyway, because I have some words too.
If there's no further public comment, and there are no further questions, orders of the day are evening adjournment. We'll see you all tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
I just want to ask, now the live stream has stopped, how many people have had to get a new room key at one point in time? You did? I hear, I've had to do it twice since I've been here, in 2 days. So this one, I was super careful with. It was only in my front pocket, never in my wallet, anything else, but.
Get your magnetic version out.
Sam, well, so I hope are you going to play some blackjack? You still take some of those blackjack? Yes. You should still take one of those. Still take a blackjack card. Take several blackjack cards. Distribute them to your fellow players, saying they can go win money playing blackjack.
I gotta put my name in this. I'm looking for surrogates. God's work, man. Let's get me on this board,
It's every quarter. So you'll be single digits, essentially on that fourth digit. If there's This is your
I have no idea.
Since he's not put the numbers down.
Well, because you don't put the numbers down.
That's what I said, just randomly pick them, it doesn't matter at this point.
You don't want to get this.
You know, this is my job. Oh, good.
Make sure you differentiate yourself from the
Vice chair.
Yes, I serve on the executive committee involved over a decade. I understand what goes on here, what needs to be done with the law.
Yeah, so I'll just have to see. No, but I certainly, I mean, I know who you are, I recognize your name. You actually seem to be, at least, you seem to be a pretty sensitive fellow. I understand. I'll take a look at it. Maybe we'll forget about this. Thank you, sir. Thank you.